Workplace stress is killing us, and here's what we need to do about it in 2025. So hi, my name's Rochelle Walsh. If you're new to me, I've been a complex trauma therapist for more than 25 years and have an online group coaching experience for women that want to go from overwhelmed to calm and confident in their emotions. So workplace stress, burnout is at epidemic levels, and it's causing not only psychological problems, but physical health issues. It's more than just being tired. It's more than just feeling overwhelmed. So let's talk about that today. So first of all, I'm going to talk about kind of what this is and then talk about 3 things that need to be addressed if you really want to fix this. So burnout and chronic stress is something that doesn't just affect us mentally, but affects us physically. It's the number one predictor, not burnout, but chronic stress is the number one predictor of premature death and disease. And so it causes inflammation in the nervous system and inflammation in the body. And so not only does it damage relationships, but it's really a huge challenge to being physically healthy. So I'm going to talk about 3 things that I think we need to address when we are looking at chronic stress. So the first is whether or not it's an inside problem or an outside problem. And usually it's some of both, but I want to distinguish that because what our brain goes to is wanting to fix what's on the outside. And there's no doubt that, there are some toxic work environments. And so not to diminish that, but many women will find that they are experiencing burnout in similar roles with other people who are not. So while it's a widespread problem, it's not an everyone problem. And so we want to look at really assessing whether or not the environment is toxic or whether or not there's some things within ourselves that we can change and experience a much different, a much better, calmer self, even without changing the circumstances. Because as we know, there are some circumstances in life that are just going to be hard, whether that's an aging parent or, things that are going on with our kids or in our relationships or the workplace. They're going to be outside stressors. And so we don't dismiss the fact that that's possible. And sometimes it is the case. But oftentimes what people find is that even when they take a sabbatical or they retire, that it's an internal problem. And so we want to focus on, first of all, the things that we can control, because we want to make sure that you don't leave your job only to find that you experience the same kind of burnout in a new setting. So we're going to talk about some of those internal things today. So if it's an external, problem, sometimes it's just the case that it's not the right place. And maybe that discomfort is that your signal that you're not cut up for that type of work, or maybe a different environment would be better for you. And certainly it's within your power to do that if you need to make those changes. Internally, here's some things we need to think about. Is there an internal perspective that maybe has to do with my expectations? I think a lot of people, and I can include myself, grew up with a working mother, but she worked part-time. And so there was this expectation in my brain about, what a value it was to, and how much I enjoyed, her cooking those home-cooked meals and having dinner on the table that she made from her own hands, and that was just what I expected of myself. So we all have these paradigms and these belief systems that were established long ago, and we carry those on even though the situation may have changed. So, once I was working, full time in at different seasons, I would find that there would be this guilt that would come up if we were eating out too many times a week, because I felt like I should be doing this. I should be having a home cooked meal on the table, and it should include, not only a main dish, but several sides and all those expectations. But those expectations that I had for myself really came from another place. They had not been updated to be in alignment with my current phase of life. And so a lot of times I think we have expectations that don't allow us to set healthy boundaries in our workplace or with ourselves. So we're scrutinizing ourselves, we're comparing ourselves. We have a lot of self-critical talk because we haven't done the work of really looking at what is a reasonable expectation. Or do I have the expectation that I should always do everything perfect, and maybe your coworkers are leaving at the end of the day and you're staying an extra hour later because nothing seems to measure up, and you have your own expectations of what excellence means to you. And so there's this inner drive that even when the workload is reduced, you find yourself always doing more. Sometimes work is a distraction from internal things that we're feeling. Maybe we feel very competent at work, very competent in the work that we're doing and how we're performing in that arena, and yet we feel very overwhelmed by some emotional things that are going in our life. So we throw ourselves into work in order to feel competent, and maybe we feel less competent or less successful in other areas of our life. We also might feel like our worth is attached to how high we achieve or how much we earn or how much approval we get in our workplace. And so looking at some of those underlying beliefs and expectations for ourselves is really key in getting to the root of where it comes from, because I do believe, and I've worked with many, many women and seen this flesh out, that you can get relief from burnout. You can get relief from chronic stress and anxiety by not changing anything in your environment, but really by looking, has this stress become habitual? Because what a lot of women find is that even when they go on sabbaticals or even once they retire, that chronic stress that they have become habituated to doesn't stop. The third thing is that once we have, really understood these expectations that we have, these underlying beliefs attached to work, we will really have to start setting boundaries around that. We have to be able to prioritize wellness if we want wellness. And for so many people, wellness is a luxury that comes after I've checked all the other boxes. And simply because they've been able to push through, it feels like that's the should do thing. The problem is literally sometimes people collapse. Sometimes they have not yet acknowledged that there is a problem until they physically can't go on. I've seen this many times, heard this many times from clients because they're so accustomed to performing and suppressing their own needs that they aren't able to recognize the problem, get help for the problem until they get to that burnout or they end up in the hospital. So really, in order to address these internal issues, to break out of a state of chronic stress, you really need to make it a priority and work around what are the ideas I have about asking for help? What are the ideas I have around rest? What does it mean to me to not do everything, but do the things that I'm doing well, the things that are aligned with my purpose and what I truly value in life? So we have to start taking this issue seriously and not see it as a failure, not see it as a result of only what's going on in the workplace, because I guarantee you, it's kind of like I tell people, if someone says, why do I always pick the wrong guy? Why do I always end up with the narcissist? It's like, because there's a lot of them out there. Unless you figure out the underlying issue, you're going to continue to attract the same type of situation in your life. So make sure that if you're identifying that you have workplace stress, that you have burnout, that you're exploring the internal issues that make you susceptible to that. Because if you leave one position and then end up in another position, burn out because you're still expecting too much from yourself. You're still, feel like your performance equals your worth. If you're still not able to allow yourself rest or to ask for help, those same issues might follow you around. So make sure you've explored those things. It's never too late to get help. It's a serious issue, but thankfully it's something that's very fixable when you use neuroscience-based strategies to, help rewire your brain, help your body get the rest that it needs, get out of a pattern of habitual stress. You'll find that you're not only able to accomplish more, but you're able to do it while living a healthy, happy life. Thanks for tuning in. If you find this information helpful, subscribe for more videos, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, stay joyful and present.